Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to day 3 of the EU expansion tournament live from our studios here in Cologne. As today, we will decide between Giants and H2k, who will be the first team to join European LCS next season. I'm Evje Schok supporter, and I'm joined here by Brandon St. Vicious DeMarco and Mitch Kreppel-Voorspoels. Day 3, you still feeling good?
I'm feeling absolutely ready for some League of Lasagna.
League of Lasagna, well, unfortunately, that didn't go too well for him yesterday. And let's actually take a look at the schedule to see what we have coming up for you guys today. As said, one epic best of 5 here between Giants and H2k, deciding who will get into the LCS. And the loser, of course, will still have a chance to qualify tomorrow. Let's take a look at the bracket to see the other team that is still in there. Unfortunately, yesterday, Faculty got knocked out, and they are completely out of the tournament. But Reason Gaming has a chance at the end of the bracket tomorrow to face the loser of the best of 5 today, and that will be the second team that will qualify for the LCS. Well, the game we have coming up here today, gentlemen, Giants and H2k, both 3-0 matches coming in for them. Still a significant difference between H2k and Giants, who did look maybe a little stronger in their game.
Yeah, Giants look a little weaker than H2k, but at the same time, Faculty really didn't shine yesterday, so it's really hard to tell who will come out on top.
Yeah, I think, honestly, it's just going to come down to Febvin. If he shows up and he plays his best, then I think it might even just be a clean 3-0.
Yep.
He's just like the backbone of their team, and he can hard carry.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's actually take a look at the roster for their opponents. Let's look at Giants. In the top lane, we have Whirly B. We have Frederick in the jungle. In the mid lane, who will be going up against Febvin, is Expepior, Pepinero, Adri, and Rydell in that bottom lane. Well, as said, it's going to be Febvin, and on this team, it's Pepinero. We knew that mid and top solo lanes are definitely strong for Giants, but will they be strong enough is the question.
Yeah, I think a lot of pressure is going to be on Frederick, honestly. I mean, we expect a lot of things out of Pepinero already. We've seen Whirly B survive in the top lane, but looking back at the expansion matches before, at one point, Frederick had a 6 stat where he was like, in the first 10 minutes of the game, he would spend like 3 or 3.5 minutes in mid lane, basically just camping that lane over and over. But Febvin is such a good player, he probably won't die to that, so we'll have to see if Frederick can like spice up that style, figure out good gank patterns, because H2k have been doing a lot of research, and Broken Shard was even talking about Frederick's jungle pathing earlier upstairs.
Yeah, they definitely know it's coming, so it's not going to be like, oh my god, he's actually still sitting here. So I think if he ends up wasting a lot of his time there, just not being efficient with his time, then it's just going to be terrible for them.
That will be essential for them. Let's take a look at the roster for H2k on the other side. In the top lane, of course, it is Odoamne. In the jungle, it is Lulex. In the mid lane, it is Febvin. In the bottom lane, they have Yarnan and Voidal. Febvin, a 32 KDA given over 3 games, but he only died once, and he had a massive scoreline, and he seemed to be in the past a guy that would maybe go on tilt a little bit in these important games. It seems to be totally eradicated.
The advantage is that there's no real pressure here, because if you lose, you still have one more chance to get into the LCS.
Hey, there's pressure.
Well, there is pressure, but there's less pressure than having that final. But tomorrow's match is going to be absolutely insane to get in.
That game's going to be... Yeah, tomorrow's match is going to be, oh my god, if I mess up at all, like we could be out of the LCS, you know, not make it in at all. But this game, you have like a little bit of cushion. If you don't make it here, you can make it tomorrow. So I think that actually helps out H2k a lot, who, they're like choke artists. I mean, that's just what they are. So... I think that's going to be really good for them. I mean, in their previous expansion and promo tournaments, they got 0-3, didn't they?
Yeah, twice.
So, yeah, and that's just a lot of it's on Febvin. And he showed up in his matches 2 days ago, and I think he's going to show up today.
From playing a lot of solo queue with these guys, you can definitely see the difference of how they play online and at Lando. If you look at Lulix, for example, when he gets his hands on Jarvan or Lee Sin in solo queue, he will do the craziest things. He will predict flashes constantly. He'll EQ in and just carry on the knockout particle of the Jarvan to predict the flash. But we see here on LAN, he's a little bit like more held back, so you can definitely see the difference already. And one thing that might worry for H2k is when Odoamne get behind, their shot calling kind of starts suffering, because he's one of the primary shot callers on that team, and if he starts falling behind, he has less confidence in himself, and therefore the team will play less confident overall. But even then, I'm still thinking that H2k is going to have a comfortable like 3-0 or 3-1 here.
If we remember what Febvin said after their first game, well, I actually think that Faculty, so it's perfect, is a lot better than Pepinero, so I won't have any problems. I don't know if Pepinero will agree with that. We'll see how this plays out, but you guys are calling it for H2k clearly, Saint.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. Probably have to say 3-1. I could say like a hiccup game, but I definitely give it to H2k.
Krepo as well.
Yep.
Well, before the first games, we had some of our other casters say that Reason was definitely going to take it versus Giants, so nobody's counted out yet. It'll be an incredible best of 5 between Giants and H2k for a spot in the LCS. So let's meet our casters.
Thank you very much, Sharks. Welcome to the caster desk here. I am Richard Polscam. Of course, alongside me is James Stress O'Leary. And we're going to be deciding an LCS team today, Stress.
We are. I cannot wait to see who emerges from this best of 5 as the victorious 9th team into the LCS. But there were some strong words from the players, the analyst desk, everybody.
Yeah.
The word choke artist being thrown around. I don't know whether I'd count H2k quite into that story now. They've had a bit of a switch up, and they are 3-0 through the first round. But
yeah, I am not one to believe the Tilt 2K story, but as we get into Champions Select, we'll see what H2K will be doing with their bans. Syndra, Xerath are taken away, Zed and Lee Sin coming in from Giants.
Yeah, these are some fast bans out already. There's going to be a lot of mid lane focus in this matchup. Pepinero and Forbiven have been outspoken in this. Forbiven says that he doesn't think Pepinero is that much. We'll see if he can handle him, though, because other mid laners have come in and haven't quite been able to do so.
Yes, indeed. And another couple mid lane bans coming out here. LeBlanc comes away, and Rumble for the top lane aims at, of course, Odawane, who locks in the Jarvan very quickly for H2K.
Yeah, interesting that Rumble would be banned out here. We've seen Odawane on it before. I hadn't counted in the bans. I was expecting it left the Jarvan open, that I kind of was thinking that one of these two teams would have banned away, but both teams clearly have a strategy here, and it's coming out thick and fast.
Yeah, another fast lock-ins here will be Irelia for that top lane of Whirly B, and then Fresh as well for the bot lane of Rydell.
Yeah, and I'm a little bit shaky on them giving Rydell his Thresh. Rydell likes Thresh and Alistar, and aside from that, has kind of looked a little underwhelming. Reason was saying, why did we let Rydell give his get his best champions again and again? Little bit of a strange decision on that one, but we'll see whether Voidal thinks he can handle that. Over on the side of H2K, what have they got available? We talked about how mid lane pick is going to be a big factor here. They hovered over the Twisted Fate just to kind of tell Pepinero they know what's in his playbook. They know they're expecting that already. We saw Ari played by Forbiven in the matchup against Zed, saw him win the other way around as well, so Forbiven could just lock that in here and get a very safe mid laner for himself.
Yep, so they're still deciding what they want here, but as you mentioned, indeed they did do that. In fact, in the banning phase, N Faculty specifically banned 2 or 3 mid laners against Forbiven, but here we go, the Jace comes out, and now it's banned in every single game in that N Faculty series.
Yeah, that's a big factor, and because the bans and picks have been so fast, we actually overlooked just how high priority every team has been with banning Jace away from Forbiven. So he's now got that champion for himself in the mid lane, and that is potentially detrimental here to Giants. We know they like to plan around their mid lane and jungle synergy, but they also have been swapping it up with regards to, you know, Frederick going bottom lane as well. And speaking of bottom lane, what are they going to pick against this Corki? We've seen the Graves. We've seen people trying Sivir. We saw H2k play it yesterday, and Dignitas as well. To mixed results, I think is fair to say. It kind of had some good spots, but Giants have a lot to pick up for here. They're looking for jungle as well. Will we see a Pantheon? That is what Frederick has been defaulting to quite a lot. And an instant lock in on the Pantheon, and another champion we saw just a couple of days ago.
Well, there you go. We do have the Pantheon locked in, and Azir as well. We've seen this in the offline round here at the expansion tournament. Again, we've seen it in San Jose, but this one will be taken away here by Pepinero.
Yeah, this is going to be a very long-range mid-lane matchup. You look at a Jace and an Azir, both are going to want to sit quite far back because Jace just wants to land a lot of that poke. That's going to be an interesting one as we head into the game. See whether they can get the Azir and Pantheon combo with the ultimates off.
Yeah, we'll see if that is the case, as H2K just come in with their final 2 lock-ins, waiting to see what that will be. They have their jungler here, of course, the mid laner, so just waiting on that support, which may indeed be Janna, but we also need to see what that top lane is, see what Odawane brings into the mix. But, of course, we do have the rest of the lineup coming in from Giants.
He's got to pick something against Irelia. Mundo is one option, and he does opt for it. Malphite could have been the other, but they do lock both of those picks in. So they've got a good amount of disengage here, with Voidal taking that Janna pickup. So Pantheon and Azir, when they go in, or when they use their ultimates and Thresh tries to go in as well, there's a lot of disengage that Giants are going to have to try and deal with, and we know exactly how much they like to engage and keep up the aggression.
Yeah, and that is just signified in the Sivir pick now coming in here from Giants. They will put that into their bot lane. So this is an interesting team composition from Giants. They have the Irelia on Whirly B, and then they have the engage from Pantheon, and they have the Sivir in there as well into the mix.
Yeah, that's quite a a mobile composition when you look at it, and when you use that Sivir ultimate as well, you're going to be able to catch up quite a lot of distance on anybody that is trying to get away. But you have to look at whether H2k are going to look to pick those fights. They've got a lot of range here on H2k between their bottom three picks there on Jace, Corki, and Janna, and it's up to Giants to actually close that distance, get the Pantheon ultimate, get the Azir ult to lock people into a particular area. But it's an interesting one here as we set up.
Yeah, it is indeed. And of course, on H2K side, Odawan, they did opt towards that Mundo. And now we do have that big Jace pick coming in from Febiven, something we haven't seen just yet, only because every team has been banning that ult against him.
And you can see Pepinero is ready to go. He is itching to get into this game and clearly feels confident here with the Azir locked in as well.
Yeah, he doesn't feel like that's a matchup that will be hurting him too much, but we are literally seconds away from getting into this first game of this best of 5 in the upper bracket final of the expansion tournament. One of these two teams through this series, if they win it, will be going straight into the LCS, the spring split. But we are now getting on to the Rift, and we'll see which team will get ahead. So we do, of course, have Giants now here in the top side with Whirly in the top lane, ex-Pepinero, not in the jungle. He will be in the mid lane this time around, but he's deciding to sit over there at the moment. Of course, Frederick in the jungle, Adri and Rydor in the AD carrying support.
Indeed, on H2k, they are on the blue side. This time it's Forbidden in the mid lane. We're Crazy Land on...
Yeah, playing musical chairs.
Odoamne in the top lane, Lulex in the jungle, Forbidden in the mid lane, Hyanan and Voidal down in the bottom lane.
I was like, that's not Pepinero.
I know, exactly. I'm thinking Frederick and Pepinero spend a lot of time around each other, but that doesn't mean that they've swapped roles. It's just because Frederick is in mid lane a lot. But we're into this game. Let's check out the warding, as that has been the name of this early game over the last few games. And Odoamne...
Well, he steps forwards and will be getting battered away by Frederick. Whirly B up here as well. And they will be heading through here. So mid lane, we can see Jarvan just moving up here, trying to do something. Voidal as well. Rydor and Adri will be putting down some harassment. Febiven, of course, on that Jace in the mid lane.
Yeah, and it's an interesting factor that now Forbidden has his Jace. How strong is it? Because... And Faculty banned it every game against him. There obviously is a reason for that, and I think if anybody's followed H2k through Challenger tournaments just recently, we've seen it a couple of times, and it has done very well for themselves. And it's a confident pick, knowing how Pepinero was going to, opt for the counter pick. Giants will be red side for all 5 games here of this best of 5 series. So that means Pepinero should be able to get a comfortable matchup against Forbidden if they can hold off on that mid lane pick.
And they chose to do that. They chose to be on the red side every single game, which of course will give them the counter pick, but they'll never get that first pick. That seems to be their plan. But Hyanan and Voidal in the bot lane do take away the small Krug, but the aggression from Giants will push them away from the big one, so they will not be getting an early game advantage.
Yes, indeed. It was interesting that they actually chose to do red side all 5 games. And I spoke with Prolly, and the strategy that H2k have going into this is that, we just want first pick.
Yeah,
it's as simple as that. He's like, let's go with the we're gonna first pick a champion strategy. And they picked Jarvan. That was their top tier pick for this matchup. They took it away from Frederick, and Crepper was talking about Lulex Jarvan online and how much he can make plays on it. So we'll see whether that does come to fruition in this game.
Yeah, Lulex here, you can see, just farming through the jungle here. A little bit low on that health bar, but he'll be back up to fighting shape no time at all. He was actually having a hard time against these Merc Wolves.
He's
may
having
have
a really
to
hard
back
time.
off. I'm not entirely sure if he can clear these ones out. Bot lane, though, Hook will land onto Voidal. Will be turning around the Howling Gale, drops him very low. And Lulex, it appears, did emerge victorious on those Merc Wolves.
And that's actually going to be a big difference between these two junglers right now, with Lulex being so low. He should get the replenished health here when he does smite the red, but he's playing this very dangerously here. He's going to wait until the last minute. He will be fine, but the problem with this is Frederick on Pantheon, he's been using his mana to get through the jungle and make sure he can get that passive to block as many attacks. It means Lulex has to go back, Frederick has the option to gank here, and this could be an early flash blown in one of the lanes. We'll see where Frederick goes. Normally he tends towards mid, but you can see Azir ex-Pepe has been shoving in, so it's a bit of a difficult gank for Frederick this early on.
Yeah, in fact, all he'll opt for is that aggressive ward into the jungle, see where he is at. However, that ward over the wall from Lulex from that red buff will spot him out, so they know where that ward is going down. And Frederick, yet again, is paying attention to the mid lane, seeing everything that he can do. Bot lane, yet another hook lands from Rydal, allows Andrew to land the boomerang blade and get all that damage down onto his counterpart. And you can see that reflected from the harassment into the CS scores here. 5 CS ahead, 4 minutes in, already ahead of the game.
Yeah, already ahead. And speaking of ahead, in that middle lane, we said that, was hook lands bottom.
Yeah, Rydal does not stop landing these hooks. The ignite goes down. He'll have to burn the heal as well. That's a summoner going down from both sides in the bot lane, but it'll also send him packing back to base.
And you can start to see why Thresh is that first rotation pick here from Giants on red side. A little bit perhaps of an oversight by H2k to let that one through. Rydal is very strong on Thresh and he's landed a good few hooks, but in the middle lane, I was about to mention, Pepinero has a CS lead already on Jace. It's going to take a while for Forbiven to get into this game, needs a little bit of time to make sure he can deal with Pepinero, but the fact of the matter is, it is starting out a little bit more difficult for Forbiven than perhaps he was anticipating.
Maybe, but there has to be a reason why every single team was banning it out against him, and hopefully we'll see that as we move through this game. We are only 5 minutes into the game. Lulex moving in here. You know what we haven't really talked too much about, Stress, is that top lane. Odoamne versus Whirly B, the Irelia versus that Mundo matchup.
Yeah, but forget top lane for a second, because Lulex is looking for a gank.
Oh, there's the flag, there's the drag, gets the knock up as well. Forbiven with the two disguise, both will be flashing forwards, and the first blood goes to Lulex.
Great first blood out of H2k. Lulex, even though he was behind early in the jungle, just makes his effect felt in this game already. Frederick just kind of went back to his jungle. Lulex was healthy enough after buying that Rangers Trailblazer from base to just come into mid lane and punish Pepinero for pushing in. Now Pepinero has no summoners available.
Well, if there's any lane you need to be putting the pressure down onto, it will be Pepinero in the mid lane from Giants. He is that focal point for them to try and win the game, but as yesterday has proven, the other lanes in the top lane, though, Whirly B putting so much damage onto Odoamne, but it is Jarvan coming in from the backside. Mundo is too low for him to go for aggression, though.
And that's now a slight, well, it's quite a big advantage for Whirly B now, forcing Odoamne back right now. And you expect in this matchup, there's not really going to be too much kill pressure, especially after level 6, as Mundo is going to have his ultimate available to stay alive. But there is a bit of a CS difference that has opened up. But all around the board, H2k are looking comfortable to begin this, but Giants have got advantages in just about every single lane.
Yeah, in the bot lane, they're just simply out-harassing them. Rydal again landing all the CC. The spell shield blocks the phosphorus bomb, and Hyana and Voidor are getting the short end of the stick.
You can see actually now that bottom lane has really started to turn in favor of Giants. There's 49 CS to 28. It's been a long time since we've seen Hyana and Voidor bullied around quite this much, and it's all down to that Rydal Thresh, and Frederick going aggressive on his own.
Yeah, but he's taking a lot of damage from Forbiven, who swaps to the hammer form, but in return, the soldiers come forwards. Heartseeker strike flashes forwards, looks for the spear shot, but again, Lulex is there to meet him and finds his second kill of the game, this time onto the jungler.
Frederick just really didn't read that situation quite well. He thought he could get Forbiven, but didn't account for Lulex coming out of his own jungle and picking up another kill. Lulex, this is their first tier pick. They got Jarvan in their first rotation, and 2-0 is making it work already.
Yeah, absolutely paying off in this game. Frederick and Pepinero, usually the cornerstones of the team, not doing all that well as yet another hook lands in the bot lane from Rydal. Seems like he can't stop hitting them. Haven't seen a single hook miss so far, 7 minutes into this game. Lulex also came into the bot lane, but his priority right now is recalling and putting that extra money to spare, or actually putting them into some items, because he's 2-0 right now. He has all the kills in this game.
He does indeed, and I feel like Giants need to get a couple of kills onto Sivir because they need to get Sivir ahead. One problem they're going to have much later into this game is Sivir typically doesn't deal with high health targets like a Mundo quite as well as you'd like your AD carry to, but this could be the start of getting a couple of kills.
Well, Rydal comes forwards, yet the ignite is going down again, puts down the auto attacks, but the exhaust coming out from Voidal will stop Adri from murdering his AD carry. But he will again have to go back to base, and that CS differential is opening up even further. Over 20 CS ahead now.
It's a good lead so far, and it translates into an item lead as well. Giants maybe looking for their first dragon of the game. This is a fairly early dragon considering what we've seen on 4.21, but they should just about have the timing to do this. Lulex is on his way over, and it's all due to that pressure out in the bottom lane, and good read by Giants. They knew that they could take this.
And if Febiven can't even harass them down, he's completely out of mana, may have enough just for a Shock Blast acceleration gate, but now with the blue buff, he'll be going back to base. Lulex picks up his red buff as well.
So that should just about even the game. When you look at things, of course, Dragon no longer gives global gold.
Yep.
The stats on it should just about make this one a fairly even affair, and Giants going to give that blue buff over to Pepinaro. Hopefully should be able to get him a little bit into this matchup sometime soon, because now they've got the ultimates available. Frederick and Pepinaro can use both ultimates in combination in the middle lane if they can get the positioning right, and it's going to be a key factor for them as they keep going through, because Lulex has been reading fairly well these mid lane ganks.
So one of the questions we had going into this game is also from the analyst desk is how is the solo lanes going to go?
Yeah.
Because Odawalne, he's an exceptionally strong top laner, and so is Febiven in the mid lane up against Pepinero. And so far, all the other lanes apart from mid lane have been going into Giants' favor, but it's really been Lulex who has been disrupting the mid lane. But even so, Pepinero is keeping up in the farm.
He is, and he's got to be careful as the bottom lane, because Frederick was looking to ult here. Didn't quite activate it. Flash forward.
Flash forward from Rydal quickly. The response will be the Valkyrie from Hjarnan, and they burn neither of their flashes. But yet, Frederick is still in the bot lane, and he's still looking for his ultimate. Either way, they pick up the bottom turret, and that's what they were after.
Willie B has actually impressed me to go back to top lane. He yesterday was picking Jax when not a lot of people would say Jax is as first pickable as possible, and he's done a good job, and Frederick is trying to get into this mid lane for a good job, but he's going to find Lulex.
Again, Lulex is here for the counter gank, and this time he has Cataclysm. That's another dead Frederick. All these kills are always in mid lane, and Frederick is too early, in fact. He's always counter-ganked by Lulex.
Yeah, Lulex has just been reading the situation very well. H2k have been utilizing the warding that they have around the river just to make sure that every time Frederick tries to come into lane, he has to expend something to try and get the kill. And from there, it's a very easy kill for Lulex to just pick him off now that he has no flash. And Lulex is just doing a really good job, and they're making this first pick Jarvan work.
And this first pick Jarvan is going into the jungle now from Frederick. Voidal as well, coming in for the tag team, puts down the ward and trying to take away potential buffs here. Frederick, though, charging up his ultimate. He's moving into the mid lane. Next, Pepinero moves forwards, does get the soldier down, tries to get the slow from Conquering Sands, will not get that one, but they are still maybe cut off. Rydal comes forwards and lands the hook onto Febiven. Here comes the soldiers, here comes the kill for the Emperor, and now the damage onto Odawalne, but they're turning it around onto Frederick. They pick up one, Lulex drops low, he's killed in turn by Adri. Now Voidal is under attack, but they're not in range to follow up, and Mundo uses Sadism. He should be able to get back to safety, but 2-1, Giants come out ahead.
Oh, the hook. They still have the Azir ultimate.
He gets onto Odawalne. He doesn't have his ultimate anymore, and the Monsoon will be used to try and heal him, but he goes down in turn. Odawalne is dropping low. Whirly Bee goes into the inner turret. Yone comes in from the bot lane. Now Odawalne drops. Can he pick up the kill onto Corki? He will Valkyrie away, and that one just went from bad to worse for H2k, and they lose a tower in the mid lane for it.
Huge play out of Giants. They knew they had to get the Pantheon as the first ultimate and make it work, and they did. They zone Jace into the top side of the river, and from there, it's fairly easy to pick them off. You can only really disengage with Janna once, and she tried to save it for as long as possible, and it wasn't quite enough, and Pepinero
he's
does
actually
get
interrupted. Febiven is on the hunt. Valkyrie comes through, and he has to burn his flash.
Ooh, Pepinero. Little bit risky there, sticking around, but he does stay alive. That was a big power play out of Giants to really take control for now, but between Febiven and Hjarnan, this tower is quite low, and I don't think Adri really has enough to clear this one out, so that is going to give them a little bit more of that global goal to try and stop that lead from growing out of Giants.
Yeah, that will go down. Dragon is up in around 2 minutes' time, so everyone's going to go back to base and pick up their first items, or at least the components of their first items. You can see Febiven in the mid lane picks up his Mana Moon, looking for that mirror mana, of course, as he gets those stacks on the tier. And on his opponent's side, it will be Azir picking up the Morellonomicon, now going into that blasting wand.
H2k going into a section of the game as actually Rydal is looking for another gank. I'm not too sure whether they'll really be able to get Odo Amne after he pops his ultimate.
Oh, the fresh appears, but he does land the flay as well. Whirlybee drops low. Cataclysm slides into the lane, picks up the kill again. 100% kill participation, 3 kills and 2 assists.
That was a little bit of a risky play out of Whirlybee and Rydal. If Lulex hadn't been there, sure, I can see it working, but Lulex has been so good reading the map movements of Giants just in general that so far, Giants haven't really been able to find anything. But with 1 minute on the Dragon timer before it respawns, H2k are going to get a big spike here. If they can get a couple of key items finished, they've got a lot of poke, which is very good for these Dragon control kind of skirmishes. So between Jace and Corki, and of course the cleavers from Mundo, they should be able to force Giants a little bit away from the Dragon area, and you can see Odo Amne doing some work up in the top lane as well.
Well, we know Giants are a very aggressive team, but maybe they'll be a little bit on the back foot here, because every time they go for an aggressive play, Lulex is always there to meet them, and he always picks up a kill off the back of it as well.
He is. They're trying to read him through the jungle, though. They did just have 2 lines of ward set up, one through river, one through kind of the outer jungle camps of H2k's jungle. They've started to time out now, but they haven't really been as effective as Giants would have liked them, because Lulex has still had an impact on this game coming up through the top side of top lane. But as Dragon is about to spawn, we'll see whether Giants can control this area a little bit better now and look for their second Dragon of the game. H2k are here to poke them out. Wow, okay.
Damage.
That is too much for Giants to sit around this Dragon now.
They just turn tail and run.
1 shock blast just did that, along with the Dragon damage as well. And H2k have now forced Giants completely away. There's no way that Giants can contest this.
Oh, yeah, it will come down to a smite war, and when the enemy jungler is down to 40% from 1 shock blast, he's not even going to try. And that Dragon goes over to H2k, and they'll try and convert this into another lead in the mid lane. They're pushing hard.
Yeah, that was a big spike of damage that Forbidden just was able to output. And if he can continue to land that poke just like this, it's going to be difficult for Giants really to sit anywhere around objectives, whether it's towers or the Dragon. But you saw that Whirlybee did pick up a tower up in that top lane. He's trying to just pressure out as much so that H2k have to force somebody to come along and deal with him. And with that Trinity Force, Whirlybee does have a fair amount of damage in his kit right now. But Sunfire Cape from Mundo should be enough just to kind of hold that off.
Well, this has been a fairly fast game in terms of Dragons, because we've seen 2 go down so far in this game, as opposed to the first one only usually dying at around 15 minutes. That's 1 apiece for these 2 teams. You spoke about it in Champions Select, but that poke is really starting to mount up. They both have Corki and Forbidden as well, for both of that poking abilities, be able to siege very well. That's what they're looking for. And of course, the second buff now from the Dragon will give that pushing power.
And speaking of Corki, though, he's managed to catch up in farm. He was down by about 20 CS in the laning phase and has had time to sit around in bottom lane and just grab a little bit more CS here, as they're now going to push on to the bottom lane tower. Sivir has stayed, but Lulex is here as well. They're going to go aggressive.
Oh, the flag, the drag, the Cataclysm will be sliding out of that one with the Lantern. Now Whirlybee from the top lane flashes away. The hook goes sideways and hits a minion instead, but Lulex is caught right in between enemy territory. Whirlybee will throw out the Transcendent Blades, and Adri will follow up with the auto attack.
Adri's low, but so is Lulex. And that was an easy pick off there. One of those moments where you're thinking, yeah, okay, no, you've got... Okay, now Adri's low.
Yeah, Adri versus Gromp. Gromp almost victorious. Ryo will come in and even up the odds.
He's just trying to uphold the legacy of White.
Yeah, he is now the game Gromp.
Oh,
we have 2 of them on the map. It makes sense.
I don't know how to respond to that.
Well, in the mid lane, Pepinero will be trying to respond against Febervin, because right now he is dishing out quite a lot of damage. He's well on his way to his last Whisper as well. Pepinero, you can see, moving through the top jungle, is on his way to the death cap, it looks like here. Stressy has the makings of it. He does have the needlessly large rod. He has the blasting wand as well.
Yeah, he does indeed. And I'm interested to see how Pepinero and Frederick are once again going to use their ultimates in combination, because Pantheon ultimate is available. Can they find a position on the map to get that behind someone and force them into a dangerous situation with Pepinero? Because Pepinero does have a lot of damage. That's one thing that you really cannot underestimate when it comes to Azir. He has so much damage with a couple of soldiers out that as soon as you can get a couple of hits, you're shredding through the enemy health bar.
Yeah, and again, the Shock Blast doesn't quite land onto Adri, but if it does, then, well, it will hurt quite a lot. Top lane, though, first item has been finished by Whirly B, picks up the Trinity Force here, and that is well on his way to being a pretty strong threat on the team of Giants. But 5 of 5 currently when we take a look at the game as a whole. Only 7,000 gold, or rather 700 gold advances to H2k. Is not the smallest of margins, but it's not huge either.
No, it isn't. But when you take into account the Dragons are even as well, it is a decent spot for H2k to be in. And now they're into this mid-game kind of section where they can poke out Giants for now. And you can see the distance between the two teams. And that should favor H2k because Giants, without using that Pantheon ultimate or without using Pepinero's ultimate, have a difficult time engaging. They really have to cross a lot of distance to catch up with the Jace, with the Corki, and then the disengage from Voidal as well. So Giants have got a little bit of a predicament for themselves, but they're looking to turn it around with the top.
Whirly B coming in here, will be aggressing onto Odoarne. Frederick from the bottom side as well. Rydal now coming in from the bot lane. Sivir follows up. This is full collapse, but can they get in range? Will be locking him down with the stun, with the Equilibrium strike, but this is given time for H2k to respond. And that Mundo is too tanky. He flashes away from the death sentence, but the team was behind him. Maybe he might have wanted to land that hook, but Hyanan in the bottom lane.
Yeah, it's bought time for Hyanan. Again, just continuing to get that CS lead, continuing to push as well. And as good as Adri's been doing on Sivir in this game, still have the problem that you can see how tanky Mundo is with just a couple of people chasing him already. When that's a team fight, Adri has a lot more trouble outputting damage onto that high health target. And you can see Mundo's itemizing for it anyway. He's going for the Randuin's Omen as a second item. Hey, you can see our analyst desk.
Hey guys.
Just taking notes on this game. Hopefully they'll have a lot to say after this one because this has been a great game so far. We've seen a lot of Dragon control out of both of these teams already, and with Dragon spawning in a minute's time, hopefully we'll not see Giants get poked out quite so easily as they did last time.
Well, it's getting to that point, getting to the breaking point. No doubt Dragon will be a catalyst for a potential fight coming in here. Now that Last Whisper has been completed by Febiven, you can see here 190 farm at the 20-minute mark is not bad going. He's in pretty good shape. Pepinero is not doing too bad himself.
No, he's in a good spot right now. He hasn't actually been back to buy in a little while. Maybe he has. I'm a little bit mistaken. I was going to say, last time I looked down, you had a needlessly large Rodder Blasting Wand and you're still there, but it's okay. He'll keep getting that gold chugging up. But Odoamne is pushing up in the top lane. Hyanan has been pushing in the bottom lane, and it's very difficult for Giants to actually deal with that right now. They're being spread quite thin across the map, and with the amount of poke that H2k have, Giants are certainly under the pressure to get advantages anywhere they can. Dragon is spawning. Giants are here. Teleport is available for both top laners as well, but Giants are actually just going to give the position up here to H2k. H2k have now solidified their control of the Dragon Pit.
So two Giants contest. That's a Shock Blast hitting right onto Pepinero. And that may just tell them to go back. No, they do not at all. Odoarne is there just taking point, telling the team that it is safe to go, and the Dragon goes down uncontested.
That's a really important Dragon as well, especially with a Jace in this game. Jace is going to shred through towers with that Hypercharge anyway, and now that you've given him extra damage, he's got 5 points in Hypercharge. He's just going to sit in front of turrets and just poke you down, and as soon as you're too low, step up to the front and take down that turret with no trouble.
So now Giants will just back off. They did lose that last Dragon, but they still have won themselves. 3 Dragons going down so far in this game. 2 went to H2k, 1 to Giants. The objectives in terms of turrets are completely even, 3-3 you can see on the scoreboard here. And now in the jungle, Hyanan, it is now time. He's allowed to take the Bramble back.
You can see the Giants have kind of reverted to being a little bit more passive than they were just by their ward patterns. Earlier, they had the 2 lines running through the jungle of H2k. Now, they don't have any deep wards into H2k's jungle, and they're having difficulty on reading this composition because H2k are just so far pushed up, and because of the distance both teams have to stand apart from each other, Giants have to ward far more defensively than they'd like to right now.
So on the warding side of things, they do not have as much as H2k. Of course, around the Dragon Pit, it was completely cleared out. But when we take a look at the mid lane with Febiven once again, in every single game, he's been a big playmaker. Indeed, in their last series against N Faculty, he was the big playmaker. He went huge every single game. Hyanan also did super well himself, but Forbiven has had a pretty good setup to this game, and while 1-3 is not the most exciting scoreline in the world, you take a look at his farm and he's doing pretty damn well.
Yeah, especially when you consider that he had that little tricky start to the game, as Pepinero had a bit of an advantage just from his champion at the beginning of the game. But Forbiven is now back into this. He's got a good lead on himself, and perhaps his comments about Pepinero may reign true. Forbiven just was not worried at all. Frederick just showed in the top lane, which you'd imagine would give H2k a little bit more freedom, but without a minion wave, they cannot push onto that inner turret quite yet. But we'll see what Frederick is going to go for, because he is in position. Here comes the Grand Skyfall.
It goes down, and there's a Howling Gale to meet him. Rydal comes down to the bottom side, but they're opening up with the team fight regardless. Odoamne is very tanky. They won't be able to get through that front line, but Febiven gets hooked by a miracle hook from Rydal. They can't get the damage onto him, and Pepinero goes down. That will signal for retreat from Giants. Lulex drops low though, but they don't have any damage. There's no one to put that down. Accelerated Shock Blast will pick up Rydal on the backside. When he comes in, he picks up one onto Febiven. Can't get quite near Lulex, and now they will chase down Adri. He doesn't have enough damage against 4 members from H2k, a 4-for-1 in total for H2k.
Giants threw everything using the Pantheon ultimate, trying to get into range, and Pepinero seems to have his ultimate still available by the looks of it. I'm not sure whether that's a spectator bug or not, but H2k just kind of absorbed it all, disengaged, backed off, and turned the damage around. And let's take another look at that fight. I want to see whether the ultimate did actually come out from Pepinero. Frederick already forced out of the fight. Rydal only got Odoamne with a flay, and it was difficult after Lulex cataclysmed in a couple of members there out of Giants, and Pepinero drops very low. Hjanen just takes that opportunity, picks him off, and from there, H2k have just got more damage, more health in this situation, especially with the distance they can put between each other in a team fight.
Yeah, so Empress Divide was not even used.
Yeah, that was a great little pickup by Whirlybee. Knew he could get into the backline as well, but from there it was kind of already down in the history books for H2k.
So they came firmly ahead in that team fight. Of course, they are 2 dragons right now. Won't be giving them any combat stats from the second dragon, but the first one, of course, both teams have. 9 and 6 so far. They did pick a turret off the back of that fight, giving them that slight gold advantage. Now around 4,000 gold is significant, but nothing that the Giants cannot scale and bring back to even footing in this game. Pepinero taking away his blue buff and maybe looking for the next fight here. Has picked up eventually that death cap and now has an amp tome as well to build into pretty much anything.
So he's got a lot of damage. He's just struggling to get into a position to deal the damage. You can see that Giants, really, that is the problem that they have to overcome here using that Pantheon ultimate, but if he gets caught out alone and forced back out of the fight, it's a tough spot to get towards H2k. They have quite a lot of disengage in these fights, but Giants are going to look for other options here, looking for the bottom lane. They may have to deal with Odoamne, though, up in the top lane. Depends on how much poke they take, and that is really going to be the story of this game, is how much do Giants absorb before it's too much, because H2k have got a lot to give.
When you take a look at Giants, and who is there really to absorb the damage? They don't want it to be Whirlybee, but the Grand Skyfall comes down, gets the stun only onto Voidal. He will be using the Monsoon to tank up some of that damage, but they move everyone down there. They'll take away this inner turret with a great movement play. Odoamne still up top lane.
Yeah, and he doesn't have his teleport, which is a key factor here, so he can't cross quickly. He'll have to recall if Giants continue to push, but it's all on Giants' decision-making here. Whirlybee is going to go up top. That's going to signify them backing away, and Giants got a turret. Dragon is up in 30 seconds, and they did just use teleport, so that's something to keep in mind here, as H2k could potentially pick up a third here if they can get the position around the Dragon.
Well, Odoamne is now ahead of his counterpart, who decides to teleport into the top lane, but maybe Giants are able to collapse on him. Well, Mundo backs off. He is good to go, but the rest of his team is behind him. Dragon spawning in 15 seconds. Both of the teams are now moving towards that area. Febiven moving up here, trying to get down those wards, throwing that one over the wall. Another 2 onto Lulex as well to place where he needs to, and the Rift Scuttler will be going down.
Yes, it will. And H2k will be taking the Dragon down as well. Pantheon ultimate not available, so he's going to have to walk in there to try and get it. Not even any need to do so. They know they can't get that in time, and that's Dragon number 3 going over to H2k. They're in a great spot here in this first game of the series against Giants.
Well, what's for sure, this is one of the most closest games we've seen so far in the offline rounds, at least, of the EU LCS expansion tournament. And I feel like the same will go for the rest of this series. I feel like that will tell the tale, but H2k have not won this game just yet. 260 farm onto Featherman now, still going hard onto that total. In the top lane, not too much has happened to Early B. He's picked up the Trinity Force, which we saw a while back, and now only has the components of that Randuin's.
Yeah, he's in a decent spot to get later into this game, and if he can get onto Corki, that will be, a big part of this team fight for Giants. But Frederick really just has struggled in this game in the jungle. He got found out very early on by Lulex. He spotted the gank coming from Frederick, and then Lulex kind of read him around the map, killed him a couple of times, and from there it's been very tough for Frederick to actually have much of an impact. Giants did get that big fight just about 10 minutes ago in the mid lane, but they haven't really done too much since. They've kind of just waited for H2k to push into them. Is this what they need to do?
Well, they found out it's a lot of damage. That was actually his ultimate himself which chunked him down.
Yeah. And
Sadism will push him away, get him away from that situation from Pepinero. Did come into the top lane, just have a fair amount of damage. That Amptome now went into the Haunting guys, so looking for the Leandries.
Yeah, just wants that extra penetration, especially as we get later into this game. Mundo is going to become a big problem for Giants, and I don't know who's going to be able to take him out. That's something that Giants have to find an answer to as this game gets later and later.
Yeah, right now, when we step back, we do see that the goal totals are still pretty much the same from 5 minutes ago here. Stress 5-4. 4,000 gold ahead is still H2k. That has not changed. Giants are still holding strong. And even though that last team fight didn't go their way, Pepinero, if he is able to stand back and let his soldiers do the damage for him and let him do all the dirty work, then we might be able to get something done in these team fights.
Interesting kind of build path out of both Corki and Janna. A couple of times we've seen on Corki going Blade of the Ruined King against Cinerelia just to make sure he can survive and get away in team fights. They've opted for the Bloodthirster first, which is going to give him more damage. He's going to have the shield as well, and it's because Janna has picked up a Mikhail's Crucible, so she can just get Corki out of any kind of tough situations. He can get out of the back of the fight and turn around and put damage out. So you can see the H2k bot lane working together here.
Now H2k in the top lane will be swiftly taking away that inner turret. Of course, Odawalne did chunk that down before they arrived just a little while earlier when he was split pushing, and now they move straight onto that inhibitor turret. Odawalne literally does not care about that damage, but now he might with the Grand Skyfall coming in from behind. Rydal lands his flay onto 4 people. Emperor's Divide will be knocking away no one into the rest of his team. Whirly B is still on the front lines, but no one is behind him. Pepinero gets a couple auto attacks down with the soldier. Odawalne is still going strong. The flash, the flag and drag moves onto the AD carry. Pepinero is the only one remaining. Lulex is trying to clean him up. Dragonstruck secures the kill. 5-0. That's a clean ace for H2k.
H2k just have so much disengage, and without hard engage really out of Giants, they really have struggled to get into H2k's team fight, and that's going to be the game going over to H2k. A very convincing win, but it certainly isn't over for Giants.
Yeah, it seemed like Giants had more in them there, but that will be the first game of this best of 5 in the upper bracket finals here in the EU LCS expansion tournament, and that will be Giants losing this first game. H2k coming in strong.
And for now, you can say for H2k, history will not repeat itself. They have taken game 1 in a series that could promote them to the LCS. They perhaps are looking to really change history for themselves.
Maybe. They're looking a lot stronger in these offline rounds, and now we head into the very final game that they need to win to head into the LCS. They are looking pretty damn strong. So we'll see how they do in the rest of the games here. This is, of course, a best of 5. That was only 1 game. There's plenty of room for Giants to come back into this one. And as we've seen them so far, they've looked very strong against their opponents.
They have. I think, though, that pick and ban strategy, just without a lot of hard engage, apart from the Pantheon ultimate, it just was very difficult for them to kind of get any ground. And they let H2k have a couple of really high priority picks. The Jace was certainly a factor in that game for Forbidden. It's been banned in every other game that Forbidden has played in here at the LCS expansion. I just wonder whether Giants should let that through again. It's a big question.
Yeah, maybe. They also let the Jarvan through, and because we know that they're red side every single game, they can't first pick it away from them. So if they want to get that away, it will have to be from bans. But anyway, guys, we're going to throw it over to the analysts to break down that game and see what they think with this series.